Yo, 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 audio, 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 yo, audio. I should mute that. Okay, today we're starting a series going over the agreement of sale for residential real estate in Pennsylvania. Got it on the screen, I got it with me. So here we go. This first page, obviously buyer and seller, pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes people do not add mailing addresses, which it's not the end of the world, but best practice, definitely add them. And then another thing people do is on the first page under address, they only put, let's say, 123 Main Street. However, it literally says in parentheses, including postal city. So include the postal city. It's kind of repetitive because you do it down here as well, but again, best practices. The more information, the better. A tax ID and a parcel number are the same thing. Now, they are written out a little different. Tax IDs usually have no hyphens or periods in the number, so that's how you can kind of tell the difference between them. I always add the deed book page, the deed book and page that is on the county website. Always add that. If you can get the lot and block number, do that as well. Again, the more information you put on these, the better you're servicing your client. So obviously we get down here to buyer's relationship and seller's relationship with a licensed broker. Obviously just check if you're a buyer's agent, check buyer's agent. And then some brokerages practice designated agency. Designated agency is when you're the only realtor on that brokerage to represent. My brokerage, Venture Home Real Estate, we do not practice designated agency. All licensees can represent the client. Moving down, obviously, same thing for sellers. Now, dual agency, again, self-explanatory, but that is when you are representing the buyer and seller. Fun fact, Pennsylvania is probably one of the only states left that still has dual agencies. I'll touch on that in another video, but okay, so here we go. This is the actual first page of the agreement. There's 14 pages. Now we are getting to the second page. So we're going to go line by line with this thing and kind of just to explain it. So by this agreement dated blank, this is when you write the agreement, okay? So even if you write it the night before and your client signs it the next day, that previous date should be right here. So if I was writing an offer right now, it would be 1/2/25. Even if the clients don't sign it until a week, that should be the day that you draft this agreement. Okay, moving down to line 2. Seller hereby agrees to sell and convey to buyer who agrees to purchase the identified property. Self-explanatory. Line 3, purchase price and deposits. So you'll notice these parentheses, 4-14 in parentheses. This is called the revision date. This is the last time this section of the agreement was updated by the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. Line 4, purchase price. Obviously, boom, bada bing, write it out. Then we get down here to initial deposit within blank days, 5 if not specified, of execution date. If not included with this agreement, this is your hand money, your earnest money, your good faith money. This is held in escrow until the closing. So you'd put a good rule of thumb for hand money is about 1% of purchase price. So if it's 200,000, usually hand money you'll see it anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500. If you want to, sorry, I'm blanking. Hand money is a really good way to strengthen your offer. There's really not a lot of risk to increase your hand money if you have contingencies in place. Moving on. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Line 11. Remaining balance will be paid at settlement. Self-explanatory. Here we go. Again, we're still on paragraph 2, subparagraph B. All funds paid by buyer, including deposits, will be paid by check, cashier's check, or wired funds. All funds paid by buyer within 30 days of a settlement, including funds paid at settlement, will be by cashier's check or wired funds, but not by personal check. So what's that mean? The hand money can be personal check, but when you get to closing for your closing costs, you will need a cashier's check, or you can wire funds. I actually am a very big fan of wiring funds now. For whatever reason, it seems a little more complicated up front, but it's not. Okay, here we go. Subparagraph C. Deposits, regardless of the form of payment, will be paid in U.S. dollars to broker for seller unless otherwise stated here. This is who's holding the hand money. Okay, so if you're a buyer, you have 5 days to get the hand money to the escrow account. Where's the escrow account? That is what is stated here. I personally like to have the title company hold it rather than the selling or buying brokerage. Why? I just like it's a neutral party. That's how I kind of explain it. We don't want to hold it, and I don't want the other party to hold it. I like a mutual party to hold it, and that would be the title company. So, who will retain deposits in an escrow account in conformity with all application laws, regulations until consummation? Sorry, I'm not the best reader. Or termination of this agreement. So if you back out based on one of your contingencies, you get this hand money back. That's why I always say it's a really good way to increase the offer strength is by increasing your hand money. Okay, let me finish this sentence. Only real estate brokers are required to hold deposits in accordance with the rules and regulations of the State Real Estate Commission. Checks tendered as deposit monies may be held uncashed pending the execution of this agreement. Okay, so seller concessions. As you can see, this is a newer paragraph revised. This actually was not in here previous to 824. This is regarding the new NAR settlement. NAR being the National Association of Realtors. The settlement being, oh man, that's a whole nother video, but I can go on and on. Essentially, listing agents / sellers are not allowed to advertise if they're paying a buyer agent commission. So what it used to be before 824 is on the MLS, buyer agents can go in and they can click on a listing and they will see BAC, buyer agent commission. This is what the seller is willing to give to the buyer agent commission. So here we go. Seller concessions, buyer broker fee. In addition to any cooperating compensation negotiated between the brokers using the cooperating broker compensation agreement, PAR form CBC, also a new form, or via some other agreement, it can just be on page 14 of this agreement under what's called additional terms, or they just made a new form, the CBC. Or you could put it right here. It's kind of redundant, but moving on. Seller will pay the following fee to broker for buyer on behalf of buyer at settlement. So obviously a dollar amount or a percentage of purchase price, 0 if not specified. Okay. So as a buyer's agent, you want to call the listing agent and say, hey, listing agent, is the seller offering a buyer agent commission? If the answer is yes, find out what it is and pop her in here or use the form CBC. If it's no, you better be good, because you're going to have to convince your buyer to pay your commission, which is becoming the norm. So hit me up for more info about that. Moving on. Paragraph 3, subparagraph B, closing cost assistance. Seller will pay the following amount towards buyer's closing costs other than a brokerage fee payable to broker for buyer as permitted by the mortgage lender, if any. Seller is only obligated to pay up to the amount or percentage which is approved by the mortgage lender. Now, what's this mean? This is seller assist. These are fancy words for seller assist. So, typically, the two main loans are an FHA, which is a government-backed loan, and a conventional loan. Conventional loan is not a government-backed loan, and it comes with less stipulations and requirements. Sometimes the FHA loans will be very picky, things like handrails, peeled paint, so on and so forth. So for a conventional loan, you're allowed up to 3% seller assist. For an FHA or government-backed loan, a VA, Veteran Assistance Loan, or a USDA, you can get up to 6% seller assist. So, moving on, paragraph 4, settlement and possession. This section was last revised January 23rd, so 2 years ago now. So some of these won't change. Some of this verbiage has been in here since the agreements have been made. Usually the agreements start to get longer and longer, just more basically every time the agreement gets longer is because someone got sued. So they need to add a protection or a clause in there to legally state, hey, this is what happened in this situation. So, settlement date this is when you guys plan to close on the house. All right, and remember, closings usually happen anywhere from 25 to 60 days from the date that both parties sign an agreement. So if you submit your offer, let's just say today is 1/2/25, we submit this offer today, I'd probably put a 30-day closing in here just because I get shit done, and that's how we do it, baby. Okay, let me read this again. Settlement date is blank or before if buyer and seller agree. Settlement will occur in the county where the property is located or in an adjacent county during normal business hours unless buyer and seller agree otherwise. You can have a closing anywhere, guys. In fact, tomorrow I have a closing at a diner at 10:30 in the morning. So, a notary just comes from the title company, and yeah, we just handle it. You can really close anywhere you guys would like. Moving on. At time of settlement, the following will be prorated on a daily basis between buyer and seller, reimbursing where applicable: current taxes, rents, interest on mortgage assumptions, condominium fees and homeowner association fees, water and or sewer fees, together with any other lienable municipal service fees. All charges will be prorated for the period covered. Seller will pay up to and including the date of settlement, and buyer will pay for all days following settlement unless otherwise stated here. So, what is all this? When you get to closing, the title company will issue what's called an ALTA or a HUD. If it's all cash, it'll be on a HUD. If there's a mortgage or financing involved, it will be on an ALTA. This is basically a credit and debit between buyer and seller. This is where you see where every single fund is being allocated to. So, if you sell it in the middle of the year, obviously if you sell it, you're not going to have to pay taxes for the time period you don't own it. Everything like this will be on the ALTA. Okay. Moving along. For purposes of prorating real estate taxes, the periods covered are as follows. Municipal tax bills for all counties and municipalities in Pennsylvania are for the period from January 1st to December 31st. School tax bills for the Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Scranton school districts are for the period from January 1st to December 31st. School tax bills for all other school districts are for the period from July 1st to June 30th. That is where I actually fell under here in Beaver County, the high school I went to. Moving along. Conveyance from seller will be by fee simple deed of special warranty unless otherwise stated here. There's different types of deeds. Now, there's special warranty deeds, there's quit claim deeds, there's a bunch of them. The typical one is just what it's talking about right here on the agreement. Paragraph 4, subparagraph F. Payment of transfer taxes will be divided equally between buyer and seller unless otherwise stated here. I like this paragraph, or I like this little section. So, usually transfer tax is, in the counties that I work in, a lot of it's 2%. So seller pays 1%, buyer pays 1%. In the city of Pittsburgh, though, it can get up to 5%. So, yeah, it can jump. But that's the city of Pittsburgh for you. That's no surprise there. There's no surprise there. Now, I don't really want to give all my Easter eggs out or my tidbits, but this is a great way to negotiate money or negotiate deals for buyer and seller. You know, if I don't really think I want to go into examples, but this is pay attention to transfer taxes. I'll dive on that a little more maybe. But for now, I just want to get through the first page. Okay, subparagraph G. Possession is to be delivered by deed, existing keys, and physical possession to a vacant property free of debris. Okay? When you sell your house, there's look, broom clean. What does broom clean mean? Verbiage can be tricky, but you get the point. I would actually change some of this verbiage to be more specific, but I think broom clean is a decent verbiage to use there. And does this happen all the time? No, it doesn't, which is unfortunate. But I mean, I've represented sellers where they just refuse to even empty it out, you know, and we had to get the buyers to agree, kind of an as-is situation. I'm going to touch on the as-is probably in another video, but technically, in Pennsylvania, the term as-is not even recognized in real estate literature. It means nothing. So when people say as-is, I tell them, yeah, okay, clean the house. But it should be free of debris, with all structures, broom clean, at day and time of settlement, unless seller, before signing this agreement, has identified in writing that the property is subject to a lease. Subparagraph H. If seller has identified in writing that the property is subject to a lease or short-term rental agreement, possession is to be delivered by deed, existing keys, and assignment of existing leases and short-term rental agreements for the property, together with security deposits and interest, if any, at day and time of settlement. So if this is talking about like multi-units. So if there's more, or not even necessarily multi-units, but rentals in general. So if you are renting somewhere and you decide to sell it, you will need to give the new buyer / buyer's agent basically everything you got. You got even the leases, keys, and the hand money will be transferred to that new buyer via, and well, not via, but you'll see this on the Alta, which we were talking about up here. Okay, moving along. Seller will not enter into any new leases or short-term rental agreements, nor extend existing leases or short-term rental agreements for the property without the written consent of buyer. So you can't just start making new leases up and then, you know, try to stick that with the buyer. Buyer will acknowledge existing leases or short-term rental agreements by initialing the leases or short-term rental agreements at the execution of this agreement, unless otherwise stated in this agreement. So if you are buying a rental property and you plan to use it for rent, before you close, make sure that you initial the existing lease. This basically just kind of leaves a footprint of you and the seller talking about the lease, and like you're aware of the lease, and that's why you should initial it. That way there's nothing left unknown. Tenant occupied property addendum, par form top, is attached and made part of this agreement. Obviously that is for if a tenant is still there and you're buying the property. Okay. Paragraph 5. Dates, time is of the essence. Last revision date, 110. Written acceptance of all parties will be on or before blank. This is when both parties have to sign. So if we submitted this offer today at 1/2, usually most common practices is you'll give them like a day to respond. Sometimes it's 2 days, sometimes it's 3. I always just call the listing agent, say, hey, we really want this house. We're going to give you 6 hours. Or if there's, we're still negotiating, maybe I'll put like 2 or 3 days in here. That way we don't have to go back and change it. So if you submit this on 1/2/25, right here will be 1/3/25. So both parties, seller and buyers, will have till then to sign the leases. If they wait till the 4th, technically this contract is void. Okay. I keep looking over here to my left because this is where my little streaming screen is. So if you see me doing that, that's why. Okay. The settlement date and all other dates and times identified for the performance of any obligations of this agreement are of the essence and are binding. Okay? So that basically just says what I said. You need to sign it before this date, on or before this date. It says right here, line 58. Okay. Paragraph 5, subparagraph C, line 61. The execution date of this agreement is the date when buyer and seller have indicated full acceptance of this agreement by signing and or initialing it. For purposes of this agreement, the number of days will be counted from the execution date, excluding the day this agreement was executed and including the last day of the time period. All changes to this agreement should be initialed and dated. So, if we submit the offer on 1/2 and our time of the essence date is on 1/3, but let's say the seller doesn't sign it till 1/4, we can just cross it out and initial the changes. I like to personally draft up a whole new agreement because I don't like scribbles and scratches and initials everywhere. It just looks messy, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I like a clean agreement. Okay. Execution date. What is the execution date, you might ask? So if let's say both parties sign on the 3rd, that is the execution date. Okay? So day 1 is the following day. So day 1 would be 1/4/25. So you have the day the agreement is written on, then you have the time of the essence date, how long you give the sellers to sign, and then you have the execution date whenever it's actually signed, and then the timeline starts the following day. So day 1 is after the execution date. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there for page 1, and we will do page 2 at another time. Or technically page 3. You can see right here, 3 of 14. This is technically still page 1. Okay, thank you.